Hello, brothers and sisters, and welcome to another Temple 420 Bible study. My name's Brother Chapin Walton, and I'm here to go through the Bible with you. And this is always open. I don't know if anybody else is going to show up. Sometimes they show up a little bit later after the time, sometimes they don't. And it's always for everybody's breakdown and going with that. As far as that goes with me, too, where two of us are, Christ will be also. So if you're in this with good um, will and to seek out God, and I am with it too, we're both together, and I think it transcends time. And as long as we're both doing it together and honestly, then it'll help stir the Holy Spirit and Christ's revelation there, and we'll be able to see the Word for what it is and to learn something from it. Every time I go through the word, there's always something that particularly pertains to the time that I'm in, and it really weighs into it. So I definitely recommend the reading the word and engaging in that and coming up to that. One of the reasons too that I hold these and have these open is I know some of you people don't like reading it alone, and I don't either. So it's a good thing that you can sit down 30 minutes, an hour, and get some Bible and some discussing some thoughts on it. Just take them in yourself and chew them up, spit out, keep the good things, spit out the bad. You should always do that with any of the information. And then it ends up just be kind of a warning here and a notification with that because I myself, I think you're not using your mind, you're not processing these things and doing it. You're just listening, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You're neglecting the wisdom that the Almighty living God has given us and helped us with. Let me start out here with a prayer, and then we'll get back into the Word and start talking more about Israel getting its name. Dear Almighty Living God, one we refer to by the name Hashem, the God of all gods, the Elohim, the eternal, who has given everything in the universe its ability and beginning. You're the one who has been worshipped by all the mighty men, Solomon, Jacob, David, your son Jesus, Yeshua, all the apostles, and you bring us the wisdom, you bring us the word. You help guide us in the ways that we should be guided to do the righteous things. May we hear from your word and study in your word. Seek out righteousness with you. Learn how to be closer to you. Do our righteous things in our path. Today I decided to mix it up a little bit here. I'll show you what's going on so if anybody is confused. It doesn't seem like many people notice and see that I'm pointing out what I'm reading. So you can see I stumble, I have bad speech, I don't say things right. So this way you have full access to see what I'm reading. You can go look yourself, you can discern and figure it out. I have to jump through all these a bunch of times, so I decided I'm just going to open up the parallel access and bring a few of these in. I'll give you some reasons on what we've got here and what we're going on with. I don't like going to the Greek to the English. I kind of find that redundant. Weird, especially when Hebrew has more expressive words and Aramaic. So I go back here to the complete Jewish Bible. This is back to the Hebrew translated to the English. This is the Living Bible, one of the ones that I was raised up with. Or this one's actually the Tree of Life version. My bad. It's one of the ones that I was seeing that's really clear too. if you're going to translate all those, why not translate it for understandable English? So when it makes more sense to me, that's better than all these thys, theirs, all these old words that old English is using. No modernization. I found a complete consistency. If you're reading through the versions and especially studying it, the Holy Spirit will reveal the meaning and it'll be there. Through that way. And then I have the Koresh scriptures, which goes back to the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Aramaic, as well as restores the name back in there. I prefer the name restored because there's a bunch of gods. There's pagan Elohim, which are just powers that are named God, just like there is Lord. Lord actually refers to some Beelzebub things with that and some crazy stuff that I'm like, that doesn't have an association with the Elohim, the eternal one who's been here forever, doesn't is outside of time. That doesn't have anything to do with him with that. So I like to just cut that quick. And I will say both with it back and forth, but whenever I can think about it, I want to go Elohim, Yeshua, Yahweh, Adonai, actual titles for him that he's given in the older stuff and restored because that makes sense to me better. Anyways, let's get on with what is here? Genesis 35. Doesn't give me titles here, but this is when Yahweh blesses and renames Jacob. Elohim said to Jacob, "Arise and go to Bethel and stay there. Build an altar there to Elohim who appeared before you when you fled from Esau, your brother." Then Jacob said to his household and all of those who were with him, "Put away the foreign Elohim, gods that are among you, and purify yourselves and change your clothes." This is one exactly what I was talking about there. You'll see they refer to the Elohim, the eternal, with a capital E, full, because that's what we translate now to a God with capital G, like the God. And these foreign gods are a little E, Elohim. They're the ones that were among them and useless as it refers to it. I think that they were useless and stuff like that because I think they're also messengers, spirit things that God created. If you look back in Psalms 84, they'll be punished like men for making themselves out to be princes and things special. So I think what we've got as Elohim are spiritual forces that are out there. They're just deceiving people. So we should know that kind of stuff and recognize that rather than say, hey, that doesn't exist, because that's really misleading, especially if somebody's ran into these weird spirit things. Let us depart and go up to Bethel. I will build an altar there to Elohim, who answered me in my day of distress, and he has been with me wherever I have gone. Hallelujah. I know that one definitely. In my distress, he's answered, and he's been with me everywhere I've gone. When my closest relationships, my people who were supposed to be with me for my life, when my kids were separated from me, all of these times, Elohim, Yahweh, always been at my side. He gave me comfort. I would say, hey, help me relax in these situations. Help me through this. And he did it. It was amazing. It's an amazing blessing. It's one of the reasons that I want to make sure you guys know about this and hear my witness. So if some of you are going through terrible times and having these kind of struggles, you can call out and say, hey, God, I need you to take these things from me. I need you to help me through these situations. And hand them over to him. He will help you through, and he'll give you some glorious things in life and help you through these. Sometimes they wouldn't even be rated what everybody thinks is that, but you'll see a definite difference, and he will get in your mind, take the strains out of there, and make it amazing. Hallelujah. So they gave Jacob all the foreign Elohim that were in their land, and the rings that were in their ears. Jacob buried them under the oak that was in Shechem. As they traveled, Elohim made panic fall on the cities that were around them. So the people did not pursue the sons of Jacob. So Jacob arrived at Luz, that is Bethel, which is the land of Canaan, and all the people who were with him. He built an altar there and called the place El Bethel, because there Elohim had revealed himself to him, and when he was fleeing from his brother. Deborah, Rebekah's nurse, died, and she was buried down from Bethel under the oak tree. So it was called Alon Bakuth. Then Jacob came from Paddan Aram. Elohim appeared to him again and blessed him. Elohim said to him, your name is Jacob, but your name will no longer be called Jacob. Your name will be Israel. Israel is what we translate that to now, of course. So Elohim called his name Yisrael. And to my understanding, that's what it is in Hebrew, with a Y instead of an I. Israel. Elohim said to him, I am Elohim, the Almighty. Be fruitful and multiply. A nation and a company of nations will come from you, and kings will be among your descendants. Just looking at this one here too, because it's interesting as it pulls in the other name and the other translations of El Shaddai. That's another title too that I'm always glad to see in things, and that really resonates with me. The land that I gave Abraham and Isaac, I give to you. To your descendants after you, I also give the land. Elohim went up from him in the place where he spoke with him. Jacob set up a pillar in the place where Elohim had spoken to him, a pillar of stone. He poured out a drink offering over it and poured oil on it. Jacob called the name in the place where Elohim spoke to him, Bethel. They journeyed from Bethel while they were in some distance from entering Ephrath. Rachel went into labor, and she had hard labor. While she was in the hardest labor, the midwife said to her, do not be afraid, for now you will have another son. As she was dying, with her dying breath, she named him Benoni, but his father named him Benjamin. Rachel died and was buried on the way to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a pillar among her grave, and that is the marker of Rachel's grave today. Israel traveled on and pitched his tent beyond the watchtower of the flock. While Israel was living in the land, Reuben slept with Beliah, his father's concubine, and Israel heard of it. Now Jacob had 12 sons. His sons by Leah were Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and his sons by Rachel were Joseph and Benjamin. His sons by Beliah, Rachel's female servant, were Dan and Naphtali. These were the sons of Zephra, Leah's female servant, were Gad and Asher. These were the sons of Jacob who were born to him in Pada Aram. Jacob came to Isaac his father, and Moram in Kata Abara, the same as Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had lived. Isaac lived for 180 years. Isaac breathed his last and died, and was gathered to his ancestors, an old man full of days. Esau and Jacob, his sons, buried him. These were the descendants of Esau, also called Edom. Esau took his wives from Canaanites. These were his wives: Adah, the daughter of Elon the Hittite; Oholibamah, the daughter of Aniah, the granddaughter of Zibeon the Hivite; and Basemath, Ishmael's daughter, the sister of Nebaioth. Adah bore Zepho to Ezeu. Basemath bore Reuel. Oholibamah bore Geshush, Jabam, and Korath. These were the sons of Esau who were born to him in the land of Canaan. Esau took his wives, his sons, and his daughters, and all of the members of his household, his stock, and all of his animals, and all of his possessions, which he had gathered in the land of Canaan, and went into the land from his brother Jacob. He did this because their possessions were too many to stay together, and the land which they settled could not support them because of their livestock. So Esau, also known as Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir. These were the descendants of Esau, the ancients of the Edomites in the hill country Seir. These were the name of Esau's sons: Zephav, son of Adah, the wife of Esau; Reuel, son of Basemath, the wife of Esau. The sons of Esav were Teman, Omar, Zepho, Gatam, and Kenaz. Tema, a concubine of Ephaz, Esau's son, bore Amalek. These were the grandsons of Adah, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Renewel: Nethath, Zerath, Samarath, and Mizah. These were the grandsons of Basemath, Esau's wife. These were the sons of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, who was the daughter of Anah and the granddaughter of Zibeon. She bore to Esau Jeruth, Jaram, and Korath. These were the clans among Esau's descendants. The descendants of Esau, the firstborn of Esau: Teman, Omu, Zephu, Kenaz, Korath, Gatham, Amalek. These were the sons descended from Ephraim in the land of Odom. These were the grandsons of Adah. These were the clans from Reuel, Esau's son: Nerath, Zebram, Zamiah, Mezah. And these clans descended from Reuel in the land of Edom. They were the grandsons of Basemath, Esau's wife. They were the clans of Oholibamah, Esau's wife, Jus, Jalam, Korah. These are the descendants from Esau's wife, Oholibamah, daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Esau. These are their clans. You know, this is just me butchering kinds of names. So, laughing times. You're like, how much can this guy butcher each one of these names? These were the sons of Seir the Horite, the inhabitants of the land: Zotran, Zobah, Zibeon, Aniah, Dishon, Ezer, and Dissan. These were the clans of the Horites, the inhabitants of the Seir and the land of Edom. The sons of the Lortran were Hori and Heman, and Tema was Lotran's sister, Tamina. These were the sons of Shobal, Avan, Menahiath, Ebal, Sebo, Onam. Got a bunch more names just to go through here. Okay. These were the sons of Zebedon, Eliah, Anna, and this is Anna, who found the hot springs in the wilderness as he was pasturing the donkeys of Zebon, his father. These were the children of Anah, Dishon, Oholibamah, the daughter of Anah. These were the sons of Dishon, Hamdan, Esban, Etran, and Kiran. These were the sons of Izir, Benhan, Zavran, and Akan. These were the sons of Dishan, Uz, and Aran. These were the sons of the clans of the Horites, Lotran, Shobal, Zebulun, and Anah. Dishon, Ezer, Dishan, these were the clans of the Horites according to their clan lists in the land of Seir. These were the kings who reigned in the land of Edom before any kings reigned over the Israelites. Bela, son of Behor, reigned in Edom, and the name of the city was Dinanabah. When Beliah died, then Jorab, the son of Zerah of Borah, reigned in this place. When Joab died, Hushan, who was of the land of the Temanites, reigned in his place. When Husham died, Hadid, the son of Bedad, who defeated the Midianites in the land of Moab, reigned in his place. And the name of the city was Avrath. When Hadid died, then Semaliah of Meshkarath reigned in his place. Then Samaria died. Then Saul of Rehoboth by the river reigned in his place. When Saul died, then Baal-Hanan, son of Achabal, reigned in his place. When Baal-Hanan, son of Akibar, died, then Hagnar reigned in his place. From the name of his city was Pau. The name of his wife was Mehetabel. The daughters of Madrid, the granddaughter of Mezabib. These were the names of the heads of the clans from Esau's descendants, according to their clans and their regions, by their names: Temeniah, Avila, Zephterath, Oholbabama, Etheth, Pinon, Kins, Timon, Mezabar, Magidel, and Iram. These were the clans of Edom, according to their settlements and the land they possessed. This was Esau, the father of the Edomites. Joseph's dreams. Jacob lived in the land where his father was staying, in the land of Canaan. These were the events concerning Jacob. Joseph, who was a young man of 17 years old, was guarding the flock with his brothers. He was with the sons of Beliha and with the sons of Ziphath, his father's wives. Joseph brought an unfavorable report about them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than his sons because he was the son of his old age. He made him a beautiful garment. His brothers saw that their fathers loved him more, that his father loved him more than all of his brothers. They hated him and would not speak quarterly to him. Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told his brothers about it, and they hated him even more. He said to them, "Please listen to this dream in which I've dreamed. Behold, we were tying bundles of grain in the field, and behold, my bundle rose and stood straight up, and behold, your bundles came around and bowed down to my bundle." His brothers said to him, "Will you really reign over us? Will you actually rule over us?" They hated him even more for his dreams and his words. He dreamed another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream. The sun and moon and 11 stars bowed down to me. He told his father just as he told his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come down and bow down to the ground to you?" His brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. His brothers went to tend their flocks in Shechem. Israel said to Joseph, "Are your brothers not tending the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send you to them." Joseph said to him, "I am ready." And he said to him, "Go now and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flock, and bring me the word." So Jacob sent him out of the valley in Hebron, and Joseph went to Shechem. A certain man found Joseph, and behold, Joseph was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, "What do you seek?" Joseph said, "I am seeking my brothers. Tell me, please, where are they tending the flock?" The man said, "They left this place. I heard them say, 'Let's go to Dothan.'" Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan. He saw them from a distance, and before they came near him, they plotted against to kill him. His brothers said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is approaching. Come now. Therefore, let us murder him and cast him into the pit. We'll say a wild animal has devoured him, and see what becomes of his dreams." Reuben heard it and rescued him from their hand. He said, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood. Throw him into this pit that's in the wilderness, but lay no hand upon him, so that he may rescue him out of his hand and bring him back to his father." It came about that Joseph reached his brother, and they stripped him of his beautiful garment. They took him and threw him into a pit, and the pit was empty with no water in it. They sat down to eat bread, and they lifted their eyes and looked, and behold, a caravan. Sorry, of course. A caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices and balm and myrrh. That's interesting. They were coming from Gilead. The balm of Gilead, by what I've seen, was a cannabis done concoction there that did healing, and that they knew about it and used it. But they got it right here too in this thing. When this caravan comes by, and they were traveling to carry them down to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not lay our hands upon him, for he is our brother, our flesh." His brothers listened to him, and the midnight merchants passed by. His brothers drew up Joseph and lifted him out of the pit. They sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. The Ishmaelites carried Joseph into Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. He returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is not there, and where can I go?" They slaughtered a goat, and they took Joseph's garment and dipped it in the blood. Then they brought it to their father and said, "We found this. Please see whether or not it's your son's clothing or not." Jacob recognized it and said, "It is my son's clothing. A wild animal has devoured him. Joseph has certainly been torn to pieces." Jacob tore his garments and put on sackcloth upon his loins. He mourned for his son in many days. All of his sons and daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted and said, "Indeed, I'll go down to Sheol and mourn for my son." His father wept for him, and the Midianites sold him to Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaoh, and the captain of the bodyguard. I think it's really interesting here too that I see uh, Joseph was sold out like Christ for silver, close to the same. I don't remember how many pieces of silver Christ was sold for, but he sold for the 20 shekels of silver here to the Itemite. Ishmaelites. So they were apparently through the family of Ishmael. Right there. We got here. And it came about upon the time that Judah left his brothers, staying in a certain Aldamite, whose name was Hira. He met there a daughter of a Canaanite man whose name was Shua. He married her and slept with her, and she became pregnant and had a son. His name was She became pregnant again and had a son, and called his name Onan. She again had a son and named him Selah. It was at Chezbez which she gave birth to him. Judah found a wife for his firstborn. Her name was Tamar. Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahweh, the master Yahuwah. The master Yahuwah killed him. And Judah said to Anon, sleep with your brother's wife. Do the duty of a brother and Torah to her, and raise up a child for your brother. Onan knew the child would not be his. Whenever he slept with his brother's wife, he spilt the semen on the ground so he would not have a child for his brother. Hey, how's it going?
You saying hi to me?
Yeah.
Good. We just read the book of Daniel to the kids. What are you guys reading?
Just me reading through 38 of Genesis.
Oh, nice. What is that, Joseph?
Yeah, just after Joseph got sold off to the Ishmaelites, and then this chapter was about Judah and Tamar.
Cool. Who else? Oh, that's me. I'm like,
yeah,
who else
just
is
you.
with you? That's me.
Yeah.
I can see the picture of me. I can see the picture of me down below, and I'm looking. Who's the other guy? He's
That's
doing
funny.
Bible study. There's Chapin.
Right.
Yeah, we just did. I know. Thank you for staying away from my toes. I smashed up my toe pretty bad the other day on a rock. Oh yeah, it's ugly. I don't even want to put it on camera. It's so ugly. But anyways, we just read Daniel. So his brothers just sold him in. Reuben found him in the hole, and Reuben said we should sell him instead of killing him because the other brothers wanted to kill him, huh?
Did Reuben say that? Because I thought at one time Reuben said that, and I was just looking at it. Let me pull it up here.
Yeah, no, Reuben rescued Daniel. I mean, rescued Joseph.
Well, because then Reuben, I know, came back to the pit, and then he didn't see him there, so he was all distressed and upset when he returns to the pit in 37:29.
Oh, okay. Read that again and tell me what happens. And I always pay attention to Reuben because that's my family name.
Yeah, that's what I was actually just thinking. So that's interesting. Show up. The Reuben shows up. Like that's the one he's always family with there.
Yeah, we're Reubenites.
Yeah, it was Judah who actually sells him to his brother in 37:26. Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is it if we kill our brother and cover his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay hands on him, for our brother is our flesh." His brothers listened to him. The Midianite merchants passed by, and his brothers drew Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit. They sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver, and the Ishmaelites carried Joseph into Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit, and behold, Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. And he returned to his brothers and said, "The boy is not there. And where can I go?" They slaughtered the goat and took Joseph's garment and dipped it in the blood. And they brought it back to the father and said, "We found this. Please see whether it's your son's clothing or not." Jacob recognized it and said, "It is my son's clothing. A wild animal has devoured him." Joseph was certainly torn to pieces, and all of his sons and daughters rose. Oh, wait. Joseph tore his garments, put on his sackcloth upon his loins. He mourned for his son for many days. And all the sons and daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "Indeed, I'll go down to Sheol, mourning for my son." His father wept, and the Midianites sold him to Egypt, to Potiphar, and the officer of Pharaoh, and the captain of the bodyguard.
Wow, that's such a heavy, heavy thing. So I guess Reuben was coming back to rescue him or something, but they had already sold him.
Reuben was the one who convinced him to throw him into the pit in the first place, because he was
instead of
trying to
killing
go
him.
back and get him. Yeah.
Right. Wow, it's such a crazy, crazy story. And what's so interesting is when Joseph, in the end, says, "What you guys meant for evil, God meant for good."
Right.
And imagine how frightening and scary that would be when your own brothers are so jealous of you that they would almost want to kill you, but instead sold you into slavery. It makes me think of how many Africans that were sold into slavery by their own families, or I know a lot of them were taken by enemy tribes and then traded to the coast, the west coast of Africa, because all the slave traders couldn't get into the interior of Africa. The Africans were too strong, but they could set up forts and slave trading things right on the sea there.
By what I hear, they still do that now. They're quite tribal and will just take over each other's tribes and just enslave and sell each other. Still pretty bad.
In Africa?
Yeah, that's how Tony was like running around doing that, just like taking over cities and then taking all the kids, using them as a slave military.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that Tony guy. And remember, people made a big deal about him, and then that one guy went crazy. Yeah, it's such a strange world, dude. It feels like there's a little bit of a civil war going on in America too, just from watching the news here. I saw they put an arrest warrant out, or they filed charges against the governor of New York and against Letitia James.
Right.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, just briefly.
I mean, when you're, and I think Governor Pritzker of Illinois is going to go to jail too. I heard he had 64 NGOs scamming millions and millions of dollars from the government.
Wow.
These people have just been robbing Americans blind with this craziness.
Right.
Yeah, I think, I feel like, we're living in biblical times too in some ways. Like we're definitely living in some end time scenario here.
The craziest thing I've seen with this is I know some people who are liberal, like liberal South side, I guess, like anarchist, libertarian, like less government, and they are like leaning at this. So I don't even understand. If I was the one in it, I would be burning everything down and not doing it so carefully. So, like they look like they're having a little bit of tact.
Who, Trump and Elon?
Yeah, they got some tact with it.
Well, yeah, it seems as if they're doing a good job. It's hard to tell from the outside. The news always lies, and I just finished reading the Bible to the kids because I was about to go to bed. So I'm gonna hit mute for a second so I can brush my teeth. I'm gonna see if I can find where the mute is. Here's me. I just don't want you guys to hear me brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
All right. I don't see like as if I know how to do that.
I got it. Technically, I can mute you too.
Perfect.
Let's see. I also just pulled it up there too and was saying about too. It was interesting to me. There's the parallel too about how Joseph was sold for silver and Christ was sold for silver, which I thought was close to that same amount. Let's share 1 second. Was it 22? 20 silver?
Christ was sold for 30 pieces of silver, and that's what the potter's field that went to what's Judas, and also his brother Judas is the one. That's there you go. There's two interesting. His brother Judah or Judas, also it's the same name, sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and it was another Judas that sold Jesus for 20 pieces of silver. Why are you holding a gun to the cat? What's going on there?
You're playing hostage.
Oh, you're playing hostage rescue?
Hostage.
Okay. Yeah.
It's interesting to me too when you said they go to Potter's Field too. Joseph went to Potiphar.
Wow.
I'm like, that's
true.
pretty close. And
isn't that interesting? And because Joseph is the what do you call it? I forget the word they use. The model or the kind of the
he's one of the little Messiah.
Yeah, he's like he's a savior to the Jewish people in that he brings them out of famine and brings them to Egypt. He rescues them in Egypt. And I guess Jesus rescues us from death. So he saved his family from imminent death also, from the famine, because they couldn't feed themselves. They couldn't feed their animals. And yeah, wow, that is so interesting. The potter's field, Potiphar, and then 20 pieces of silver, which was the price of a slave. Maybe it was the wholesale price of a slave. And then they sold him in Egypt for 30 pieces of silver. We don't know how much Potiphar paid for him, but I had been told in one of my Bible study classes or something that 30 pieces of silver at the time of Jesus was the price of a slave. And so that's why the temple leaders paid Judas 30 pieces of silver to betray him. And when he realized that he was going to be put to death, he threw the silver back into the temple, and they said, "We can't keep this. This is blood money." So they bought a cemetery, which is still there today, and it's called the Potter's Field or the Potter. I don't know why it had something to do with pottery or what, but it was maybe the guy who owned it before was a potter or something. So they still call it to this day the Potter's Field.
Right. That's interesting.
Yeah. And sorry, I've still got Daniel on my mind. Oh my God. I had a dream last night. I saw nuclear bombs going off and planes flying over, and I lived in a tall building.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. And I didn't wake up. I don't remember waking up right after the dream. And then I told the dream to my worker, Caesar, this morning. And then I had forgot all about it again. And then when we started reading Daniel, and he said, "Oh, I had a vision come to me at night," I remembered my dream and I shared it with my family. But in the dream, there was I was in this big, tall building, and I was awoken from the planes going overhead. And there was lots of planes. And then one of them dropped an atomic bomb. And as the mushroom cloud and the debris was coming towards us, I had to race. My parents were there, and I had to shut the window of their bedroom and then race into where my kids were. And then shut the window of my kids' room as if that was going to stop a nuclear blast or something.
Like hiding under the desk, right?
Do you remember that as a kid?
They didn't have me doing that, but I remember Dad was always talking about they trained him to do that. I'm like, that's not going to help very well. I'm like, no, it's not.
Well, not only it wasn't under the desk. Under the desk was for earthquakes in California, but they marched us into the halls of the biggest building in our school, the oldest, biggest room. And then we had to lay down on the ground with our heads facing the wall and our butts towards the center, and then put our hands over our head and eyes for the flash blast. which is kind of traumatic to do to kids, like frighten them about a nuclear bomb. But I had a friend who came to my house and spoke in front of, I'm forgetting his name at the moment. Um, he wrote a book about butterflies, but he survived the atomic blast, I believe, in might have been Nagasaki, but I think it was Hiroshima. And he was one of the few survivors right at ground zero because he had been kind of a bad boy. His teacher had sent him to the closet with the big brick wall, and the wall fell over on him, and he didn't get crushed, but the brick wall protected him from the heat, and he heard all of his classmates screaming and dying. And when the blast was over and he came out from under the wall, everything was gone. He said the school was gone, his friends were gone, and he was just wandering around in like dust and debris, probably like some kid in Gaza these days.
Right. Yeah.
Have you seen the before and after pictures of Gaza?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's incredible. I mean, it looks nuked.
Yeah, that's why when everybody's like returning back to Gaza, I'm like, there's nothing there. They've got to completely fix it and do it. Anyway, by the picture I've seen, there's no water I've heard, no nothing. It's just all completely wiped out and looks nothing.
Yeah. And Trump said you have till this Saturday at noon or at midnight to return every single one of the hostages. Otherwise, all hell will break loose. Did you hear Jordan say that they'll take the Palestinians too?
No, I didn't see that part. I saw the Trump part, but not that part.
I haven't read it. I just saw the headline. It says Jordan agrees to take the Palestinians, which is interesting because do you know that that land was originally, they had originally given that to Syria, I guess the Golan Heights. The West Bank was part of Jordan, and Gaza was part of Egypt. And then they had the war for independence when all of the Arab nations. Hey, what's going on? Papa, what? Judy keeps throwing ice at me. She's throwing ice at you? Mm-hmm. You know what to do? What? Ice, baby. Okay, hey guys, do me a favor. Don't point a gun. Even though it's a toy, you don't point a gun at your sister. Okay, guys, we're still doing Bible study. Please leave the room. Julie, please stop throwing anything at him. Okay. Thank you. Okay, you're going to be safe, buddy. Can you use what? No, it's charging. It needs to charge. You guys, you can use the computer in the other room if you want. Brush your teeth. Anyway, sorry about that.
Kids for it. I understand.
I know, and I'm so tired. These kids are still loaded with energy. Julie's teacher is taking a few days off, so she didn't have school today. And Sammy and I woke up at like 3:30, 4 in the morning. And then I wake the kids up at 5:30. So hopefully they're tired by now. But, you know, they're kids. They have more energy than me.
Right.
How's your son and daughter doing?
They're doing pretty good.
Didn't Sky have something the other day, like that something big you were telling me about?
She had her VNS updated and the battery like done, so she had surgery to do that to help with her seizures.
And that went smoothly?
Yeah, that went well, and she's doing better with her seizures. So
okay, good.
That's looking well.
No surgery is easy.
No.
And it's always painful, the recovery a little bit. So what was the main point of this story that you've been focusing on? Is there a theme that you've been talking about?
Not really, just with the Bible study I've just been going through every verse through verse and just talking about it and going through and kind of having it away so people who want to read the Bible and not do it alone have something they can watch our stuff and listen to some discussion, go through it with the Bible, see some different interpretations. Sometimes we got Charlie or you on. So
good. Well, and I don't know if I don't really interpret the Bible, but for me, I think of things that it reminds me of, like the 20 pieces of silver, the 30 pieces of silver. That was really cool that both Judases were the ones that sold them and received the money. And then the one went to the potter's field, the money, and one went to Potiphar,
Right.
the Egyptian head of the bodyguards, which is amazing.
And maybe insight's the better word. Sometimes you got some insights that I don't come across and stuff like
Yeah,
that.
well, like I said, I don't know if I'm that insightful. I feel like I know from a Jewish point of view more than the Christian point of view, so that might be a different perspective. But I also think I try to think of how it relates to other parts of the Bible, and is there a lesson there? Does it remind me of something else? Because the Bible teachers all say the Bible explains itself.
Right.
So we're
Yeah, I agree.
supposed to look at the connections between. I mean, it's amazing that the book is so unified. My kids were talking about that today, how we were reading the book of Esther. We had finished the book of Esther, and then we went into Daniel and King Xerxes. They call him we call him Ashurvashirash, because that's how his name's written in the complete Jewish Bible. But I know he's also known as King Xerxes in the King James Bible. And so he, and I have no idea what his real Persian name was, but
I always
he is
remember
mentioned.
that guy on 300 that with all the
That's
necklaces and all that
Darius.
stuff.
That's King Darius, I think.
Was it? I thought Xerxes was in there too.
Yeah, Xerxes is the father, and Darius is his son. Uh, so the father had the Queen Vashti. Do you remember? Do you know the story of Esther?
A little bit. It's been a bit.
Okay, we just read it the other day, so we just finished it, and it was interesting because Xerxes is mentioned there. He's the one who got rid of Queen Vashti, killed Haman, and was so happy with Queen Esther. And then he's also mentioned in the book of Daniel. Uh, and so um, the kids, when they heard that his name again, and we had just read him in Esther, they were like, "Is he in both of those books? Is that the same guy?" And then we were talking about how's it all connected. And I'm like, even though these are different people's stories, it's a one connected message, a unified message.
Right.
Anyway, I'm so tired. Uh, and I'm frustrated a little too. So
Frustrated. What
yeah,
happened?
the lawyer, I sold the land in West Virginia, and the lawyer told me last week, okay, well, I'm sending you these papers for you to sign. And like the guy supposedly should have all of his act together, right? And he's like, oh, how are you going to sign this? He goes, all you have to do is sign and have it notarized. So I was like, oh, okay. So I had to go all the way to the consulate, which takes like 2 hours to get there. You know, taxis, FedEx. I had to pay for the signature. It was, $50 just to have the guy notarize my signature at the consulate.
Wow.
And then I had to FedEx that to the lawyer. And so it got there on Friday, and he goes, "Yeah, oh, once I get it, I'll just have you sign the sale. We can do that with DocuSign, and then I can release the funds to you." So I was like, "Okay, cool." So then I called him on Monday, and he wouldn't answer the phone. They're like, "Oh, he never came to the office all day." So I'm like, "What the heck?" So I call him first thing Tuesday morning because I'm following up on this because he said for sure you're gonna get as soon. It takes 1 or 2 days once I receive your notarized uh, confirmation that you're the right person selling the property and you're the true owner. So I was like, okay, no problem. So he didn't answer the phone on Monday. I kept talking to his secretary, and she's like, let me check. He's like, no, he's not here. And it sounded like BS. So Tuesday morning, I got a hold of him first thing in the morning, and he goes, oh, well, these people say the last time I spoke to him was on Friday, the buyers, and they asked me to file their LLC for them because they didn't want to buy it in their own name. They're buying it in the name of an LLC.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, that only takes a day. I'm like, are you doing that for him? He goes like, well, they never paid me. And I'm like, oh, great. So now I'm thinking they're not going to pay me. It makes me feel nervous. So I called the real estate agent and I said, hey, the lawyer says they haven't paid for him to form the LLC and blah, blah, blah. So he goes, okay, I'll call him right now and see what's going on. So he calls them. He says, oh, no. He says they're in touch with him. He's gonna do the LLC for him. So I was like, okay, great. He said he could do it right away. So that was Tuesday. So I called today at is it 9 in the no, I waited until 10 in the morning, maybe even 11 East Coast time. And she said he's working on it today. And I said, okay, so is it okay if I call back in a couple hours just to follow up? And she said, sure, sure, because she didn't put me on the phone with him. So now it's 2 in the afternoon on the East Coast. So I call, and then he acts all annoyed that I'm calling. He's like, I'm doing it right now. Like, and I'm like, hey, bro, you told me I was going to get these funds on Monday or Tuesday. Now here it is Tuesday afternoon, and you're just putting together the LLC. And then he acted like, well, it's because you keep calling me. And I'm like, bro, I've been on the phone with you less than 1 minute. I'm happy to hang up now. I said, I just want to know when is the whole thing going to go down? And he's like, well, at least by next week for sure. And I was just like, MFer. Like, I don't want to swear on our Bible study. But
Right.
he was just like, all of a sudden he was like upset with me like it was my fault for calling him. And I was like, all right, whatever. So I was very frustrated all day because I got bills to pay, people that are counting on me, and my worker Caesar was distraught that he was thought, oh, okay, it's gonna be today because the guy said Monday or Tuesday, and then he was like, oh, I've got to get this done. I said, okay. I told him it'll probably be tomorrow. So I gave him false information, and then I told him today, and he was I could see the disappointment in his face.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, it was awful.
That's frustrating.
So frustrating, but I get, it's part of life. I'm trying to like have the faith of Daniel. It was very even Joseph, never stopped thinking about God, even when he was in a foreign country, learned a foreign language, was thrown in jail, became a slave, and yet he still was raised so right and was so blessed by God that I think Potiphar says everything he touched was blessed and worked out well. And Potiphar put him over in charge of his whole house until the story, right?
Yeah. Egypt was having a terrible time and used him as an advisor. He helped turn everything around. And they
No,
put him
no,
in
no. Do you know
things that were
why he got thrown in jail?
when oh yeah, that story when he was that wife of them faked that he was messing with her
Yeah,
and
Potiphar's
tore
wife
his
said,
clothes off.
yeah, she tore her own clothes and ripped his robe off as he was running away. And and then she said, he raped me. And Potiphar knew it wasn't true, and he very much liked Daniel, because if it was true, or if he even if it wasn't true, he should have believed his wife and put him to death. But he obviously knew his own wife well enough that she was an Amber Heard, what Blake Lively's type of woman who falsely claimed, me too, and and so he didn't put him in, he didn't kill him, he didn't have him killed, he put him in jail. And back in jail in that kind of a country, you couldn't, Potiphar had to feed him. It wasn't like the government sponsored jails where they taxed the people and paid for prisoners. So Potiphar, even though he put him in jail, still paid for him to have food or whatever else. And then it was a fancy jail for the royal palace's jail almost, because the two of the other prisoners that eventually came in there were the Pharaoh's baker and the Pharaoh's wine pourer.
That's right. Yeah, the cupbearer and the wine.
And then he interpreted their dreams correctly, And he said, "Don't forget me." He goes, "Tell the Pharaoh, tell someone that I can interpret dreams." And they totally forgot him. They never said anything about him until, like in Daniel's, which is interesting, the book of Daniel and in Genesis, the leader of Egypt and the leader of Babylon had dreams that were very disturbing to them in their leadership. Remember Nebuchadnezzar's dream of the statue?
Yeah.
And he wouldn't tell anyone what the dream was, and he was going to put all of the exorcists, magicians, diviners, and prophets to death if they couldn't both tell him the dream and its interpretation. And then Daniel said, "Let me talk to him." And Daniel went and talked to him, and he said, "Can you do this?" He goes, "No, I can't. But the God I believe in can. So give me one night to pray and ask him, and then I'll come back and tell you the answer tomorrow."
Right.
And
Yeah.
he did. And it was similar where the Pharaoh had, it's so funny how just history repeats itself in the Bible and in real life. It seems like we're living through similar cycles over and over.
It definitely does. Seems like it continues to be the same kind of thing.
Yeah. Hey, is anyone watching these at all?
Here and there, not as
Are we,
many on the recent ones, but here and
okay.
there.
We had that one good one where 91 people watched it.
Yeah.
That's been our high so far. And how many people do we normally get? 4, 5, 10?
It was not too bad when I looked here with it a little bit back there. Sometimes we get 20 views. I've seen us get 300 views.
Oh, no way. We had 300 views on one?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and
That's
less
interesting.
comments, but it was interesting with that. It was one that I actually put up with some things we were saying in the cannabis episode. I took some snippets of that through a tool
And you
Steven gave me access to. So I put some shorts, and I think the shorts kicked a whole bunch of people to be like, what are these people talking about? And look at our recent one and all that. So.
That's so cool. That's so cool. So, all right, hopefully we'll reach somebody with the word. It seems like a lot of people are coming to God recently. Joe Rogan, Russell Brand, and even Tucker Carlson. I feel like there's even more and more famous people kind of coming to God recently. Do you know any other ones?
Trump, of course. I think he got closer, and he says he's got closer since he saw that he could have died.
It cut off right when you said that.
I say Trump, of course.
Oh, Trump. Yeah. I don't think he knows the Bible very well, but I think he does believe in God. And I heard that same thing, that he has been coming closer to feeling like, because people keep telling him, God saved your life for a reason. What do you think of the job he's doing so far? This will alienate us from a few listeners.
I think it's doing pretty good. I would have burned more down than they're doing there. I think they're doing a pretty good process of it. I don't think a lot of people know exactly what's going on, and they're all like, why are kid programmers going in there? I assume that they're going in there and using the AI services to just pop in these financial files, see if stuff looks fishy, and cut it out and show it to us so we can go right to that. Everybody's like, why would they do that? They're not accountants. Like, you don't have to. You just plug in the information, say, hey, look for certain things. Like Elon said, there was some missing bylines, stuff sent to people who shouldn't be on the do not pay list, and all kinds of crazy stuff like that, which you can easily coordinate, especially if you have AI to check it for you.
Correct. Or a giant search engine or something like that. Yeah. So that's what I heard they were doing, like scraping of data, and these kids were like data analysts, and really well skilled, obviously, or they wouldn't be working with Elon. But what I was understanding was that they were doing searches through mass amounts of data to find anomalies so they could know where to get started.
Yeah, that's pretty much what the AI does. at this point. You can just feed it mass loads of data and say, hey, what do you see in this list compared to what should be normal finances? And it'll highlight things and bring things up for you. Like you just got to take that list and then confirm off that list.
I saw one of these NGOs getting something like $8 million one day, $9 million the next day, $50 million the next day. Like they had $100 million given to them within 1 week, 1 day at a time.
Well, Elon says he's seen things where people were paid out Social Security and on the database, they're 150 years old. And like he brought up, they should be a really famous person or they should know if they're dead by now. Like, why are they still getting payments?
And people are still cashing their checks.
Yeah. Like, that's
incredible.
Totally insane.
They said they gave away $1.6 billion to dead people who did cash their checks.
It's so ridiculous.
Do you know you know how long a million seconds is?
I don't.
It's something like 11 days. And do you know how many a billion seconds is?
I don't know. That's got to be significantly more, like 11 years or something.
I'm not 100% sure on these numbers, but I think it's something like 6 months or something like that. So, and then do you know what a trillion seconds is?
I don't.
I think it's 32 years. Now, hopefully people will double check this and not just take my word for it, because I've heard this several times. The last time I heard it was on the Joe Rogan show when they were talking like people have no idea what $1 trillion is. Like, I remember when Ronald Reagan became president and we were like, he's like, we're $10 billion in debt. We shouldn't be any $1 billion in debt. And then I remember when it hit $1 trillion, we're $1 trillion in debt. And people were like, you can never pay back $1 trillion. There's not enough money in the world to pay back $1 trillion.
Right.
10 years later, we're something like $32 trillion in debt. It's incredible how these people waste money and been robbing us.
There's the numbers when I asked ChatGPT. A million seconds is just under 12 days. A billion seconds is just over 31 years. And $1 trillion seconds is 31,709 years approximately.
Look at from 31 years to 30,000. I mean, can you imagine the difference? And like people can't even imagine. We just say billions, a billion, from 11 days to 32 years. Look at the difference there between a million and a billion. Like so when you're a millionaire, you got 11 seconds worth of money. When you're a billionaire, you got 32 years worth of money. People like the Rothschilds who are trillionaires and stuff, they're not even counted on the Forbes 500 list. These people have $30,000. Here's one interesting thing that I heard, though I know we're getting away from the Bible and into modern day politics a little, is that if we do an audit of the Federal Reserve, this is what Trump said. He goes, we may not owe all that money. There may be fraud in there. And fraud will vitiate the debt. So if these people have been robbing and stealing and lying, and it's really, they're enslaving the whole world because they're printing this money out of thin air and then charging us to use their money. It's a private corporation. It needs to go bankrupt because it is bankrupt. And it seems as if if Trump is able to raise enough money from tariffs without taxes, he can then say, okay, well, I'm getting enough money from these tariffs. I don't need to be dipping into this fake piggy bank like the rest of the politicians and keep enslaving our country.
All right.
So hopefully he eliminates income tax and gets it from the tariffs. And I know we're getting away from the Bible here. I don't know how I can bring this.
Paul, the commissioner there.
Yeah, I don't know how I can bring this back to the Bible, but I guess It's just about leadership in some way. And then, oh, it kind of reminded me of the book of Daniel. Like as I was reading Daniel, and the angel Gabriel was coming and explaining the visions to him, and he's like, "Oh, this one is Persia, the Medo-Persian Empire. This one is the Greeks. The little horn that smashes everything on the goat is obviously Alexander the Great, and this was 300 years before he was even born. And then the kingdom gets divided by the four horns, um, which are his four generals that divide up the kingdom. Even though he had five generals, only four of them divided up the kingdom. Uh, so it's amazing how accurate the Bible is. And then the final empire would be the Roman Empire, which is the one we're still living in today, even though it's not necessarily ruled by the SPQR, the Roman uh, military. We're all descendants of the Roman Empire.
And if you
Or,
get spiritual conspiracy enough, then you can go to the Catholic Church and look what they all sponsor and where they're shipping around money and influence, and still see a whole bunch of control over the world through the Catholic Church, through Rome.
well, I think they're either the first or second largest property owner in the world.
Yeah.
There's the Crown of England, and then there's the Catholic Church. And the Crown of England took a lot of their property from the church, and then they went and conquered the world once the Spanish Armada was sunk off the coast of England.
It's totally wild.
Yeah, I mean, history is amazing. And you know where the word kamikaze, what kamikaze means?
I don't know exactly what it means. I know who they were.
Kamikaze means great wind.
Great win.
And the great wind, WIND. And apparently, what happened, I don't know if it was the Koreans, the Chinese, or some group, but the Japanese were about to be invaded, and some military, some navy came at them with this huge, huge armada that could have easily defeated them. And a hurricane or typhoon, I guess they call it on the Pacific Ocean, came up and destroyed the entire fleet and saved Japan. And they called the wind the kamikaze. And that's why in World War II, when they became desperate to win, they invoked the kamikaze thing, and they said, "You and your airplanes will be the great wind in your little suicide attacks," because it's so funny to think those little Japanese Zeros could do that much damage, but I guess they could sink ships
Right.
and damage them pretty good. So they started sending these guys on one-way missions with only enough gas to go out to where the fleet was and not to return home.
That's so wild.
Crazy. Yeah. The Japanese are very interesting people.
They are. I've seen a lot of interesting stuff from Japan and all the stuff like that there.
And I've known quite a few Japanese people.
Yeah, one of my neighbors growing up was a Japanese lady from Okinawa that married a serviceman and came over. She was pretty neat. Brought over a lot of their stuff and medicine rice and different various food that she would cook. She would bring over and for us to try. It was interesting.
One of my college friends, Roger, is half Japanese. And one of my good friends from high school is Japanese. And I just reconnected with her recently. And she's a United Airlines pilot. I don't want to say her name, but I tried to call her today because I wanted to confirm with her something about the flat earth. Anyway. All right, dude, it's after 8 o'clock here. It's you too, right? We're at the same time zone?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, I got to go to bed.
Sounds good. Did you want to wrap us up and say something out?
I'd be happy to.
That'd be awesome.
Yes. Dear God, please bless anyone who's listening to our Bible study with knowledge and understanding of your word, of your love, of your wrath, and of your power. Please forgive us of our sins as we forgive those who trespass against us. And may your kingdom come and your will be done. Amen.
Amen. Thank you guys for attending and that stayed out with this long. We're just over an hour and 15, almost an hour and 15 minutes now.
Good. Were you getting close to wrapping it up right when I called you?
I was still going to read through a chapter when I was going through there, but I'll push that up there. And I think we got some good content and looks good. So
perfect. Yeah, I was just so tired. I started reading the Bible to my kids earlier than I usually do, and I was like, I gotta go to bed. And then I thought, oh, it's Wednesday. Let me see if Chapin's still out there.
all right.
I'm glad I caught you, man.
Thanks for coming by. I'll stop my recording here. Thanks for attending, everybody.
All right. Well, I will see you on